Welcome to Clutch Crew Sports. I'm your lead host, Zach, and on this episode, we're going to talk all about what happened in the AFC and NFC championship games. Now, let me introduce the rest of the crew.
I'm Connor, the co-host with the most, and you can lock that.
And I'm Nate. I'm a big NFL, college, and fantasy football guy.
All right, guys, thanks. This is the first of our new introduction series, so that's going to be how we do our intros now. I like it because it shortens it down a lot, and we also get across our main point. In my introduction, I kind of summarize what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So that's the first one of those. And obviously, this episode, we're just going to be talking all about the past two games that we saw this weekend in the AFC and NFC championship games. So we're going to talk about each game individually. And then after that, we're going to talk about each specific team a little bit, like a storyline or something going on with each team. And we'll discuss our thoughts about that. So we'll start here with the Packers 49ers game. And I'll be honest, I predicted San Francisco to win the entire time. I never wavered from that or anything, but when I was on the Collier and Claire Sports Show last week, I was thinking like this is going to be a close game. I had a feeling that Green Bay would keep it relevant, and then when I woke up the morning of the game, I don't know why. I don't know if you guys ever have this feeling or not, but I just woke up and I just had a feeling in my head that this is going to be a blowout game. Do you guys ever get feelings like that? Like when you just wake up and have a feeling about a certain sort of game?
I do,
Not,
yeah.
I mean, unless it's my team. If it's not my team, not really. But
Oh, okay.
That's
if
true.
it's my team, then yeah. I mean, like I've had times when, I think it was when the Steelers were playing the Ravens, the final week of the season. I was thinking to myself, like going into that, I was like, oh, okay, it'll be a close game. Like the Ravens are like sitting Lamar Jackson, they're sitting Mark Ingram. Like we got a chance to win this. But then once that I woke up that morning, I was like, yeah, we're probably gonna get destroyed in this game. Like the way we've been playing the past couple of weeks, the team just can't keep it up anymore.
Yeah. So Nate, do you have moments like I had?
Um, can't think of a specific one, but I definitely know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I definitely felt that before.
Okay.
Like what Connor said, it's usually if it's one of my teams or something I
Yeah.
really know about. Like obviously I don't get it for a random,
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
but I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I typically get it for my teams too, but since they're not playing right now and these are like the prime time games, they were what were on my mind. I guess subconsciously I was thinking, and because I made a prediction a couple days before that where I still thought the 49ers would win, but I thought it would be close. And maybe that was part of me just trying to not start a fight with Natasha. I don't know what would have happened if I said the 49ers are going to blow them out, but yeah, when I woke up that morning, I had a feeling after the first 49ers touchdown, the way that they just marched the ball down the field, rushing the football, I was like, obviously at that point, it's still the first quarter and it's only a one score game. Like it's obviously still a game, but I was just like, oh man, it's over. It's over. There's nothing they can do now. And it ended up being the case because San Francisco scored 27 in the first half. Is 27-0. And we're going to talk more about what this means for both these teams coming up. But the way this game went, it was just it, such a contrast of styles. Like the 49ers, they really just ran the ball every time. They knew that was their strength coming in. And Raheem Morstead, man, he was insane. And they have a three-headed monster backfield, which I think is the way to go. I'm not. If you look at if you look at the teams left now, I guess, and even look at the four teams that were here to begin with, I think it's more beneficial when you have a backfield with a bunch of guys rather than one bell cow worker. So I noticed that was happening, and San Francisco, man, they have such good blocking on those runs. You see everybody gets in on the blocking, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, offensive linemen. Everybody's contributing when they're running the football, and they can run it with anybody, not even just running backs limited to. Debo Samuel was explosive in that game. Jimmy G, when he made throws, which was little, he usually connected. So that was the style I saw from San Francisco. Green Bay style, I mean, I know when you fall behind, you got to throw the ball, but to me, all season long, Aaron Rodgers was not as accurate as Aaron Rodgers has been in the past. And I guess when you fall in such a deficit, you have to throw the ball. But that leads you into the 49ers' hands. If they don't have to worry about stopping the run, they can get after you with those pass rushers, and they've got guys in the secondary to cover. So to me, I think this game really exposed Green Bay. It showed San Francisco as being a legit team, obviously very capable of winning the Super Bowl. So those are my takeaways from this game. Some of the things I saw really stood out to me, but like I said before, I just waking up, I had a feeling that this was going to be the case. But Connor, what did you see when you saw this game?
I mean, it was just the Packers defense was just full of holes. I mean, like they were
Yeah.
like Swiss cheese out there. I mean, how can you? I mean, basically all the 49ers had to do was turn around and hand it to Mostert. Like, how can you not stop that? I was thinking the same thing when Appalachian State had their game against Georgia Southern, when like all they were doing was like turn around, hand it up the middle, or like going to the outside. It's like they're doing the same two plays, and how can you not figure out? And yet Georgia Southern ran for like 250 yards. So, I mean, I think it's. I mean, I know we'll get to this later, but it's like it's a feeling of mine that's like the Packers just didn't even deserve to be here. I mean, someone like even the Vikings like pretty well gave the 49ers a better game than the Packers did, and they didn't even win the division. But like someone like the Saints or the Vikings or the Seahawks probably could have given the 49ers a much better game than the Packers did. So, but it's something that NFL teams need to take notice of. And I mean, who knows? Maybe this will play right into the Chiefs' hands because the Titans had bulldozed their way through the playoffs on the strength of their rushing game and their defense. And that's what the 49ers are doing right now. But we saw the Chiefs completely shut that down for Tennessee. So is this going to be like a similar thing in the Super Bowl? Like, who knows? But the 49ers just need to. I mean, I hope for Jimmy G's sake that he's not getting too rusty because he's not throwing the ball at all. Because, and also the fact that, they're going to have 2 weeks off now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm going to be really interested to see how Jimmy G looks in the Super Bowl, considering that, over the course of 3 weeks, he's only will have thrown 8 passes in a real game. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know, but obviously very, very dangerous. I mean, I didn't see Mostert going off for 220. I thought like maybe Tevin Coleman would do that, but Mostert really surprised me doing that. But, like you said, at least in the Titans scenario, they only had Derrick Henry, whereas with the 49ers, they have Mostert, they have Tevin Coleman, and if he's healthy enough, they have Matt Breida too, who's also pretty good. So, who are you going to game plan for? As soon as you start game planning for Mostert, now they can start giving it to Tevin Coleman and playing to his strengths. So it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be interesting to see if their defense can keep up what it was doing. I mean, because Aaron Rodgers had a semi-decent game. I mean, you're not going to sneeze at 326 yards and 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions is not good. I mean,
and the fumble too.
And the fumble.
That fumble was when the game was still in their reach too, because they were marching down the field, and that fumble reminded me of the Cam Newton Super Bowl fumble to me. Right. Like that's what it looked like, but
yeah. So and it's just another scenario of the Packers defense being a little overhyped, and also the fact that poor Aaron Rodgers, the dude just needs an offensive line. I mean, I don't think we've. The Deshaun Watson's really good and everything, but we saw what it did to him in Houston when he didn't have an offensive line. So nowadays, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have an offensive line. I mean, it can really hurt you if you don't have one, and I think the Packers have demonstrated that, and that it was very apparent in this game.
Yeah, Nate, what did you see watching this?
Well, for me, this is like we'll kind of get into this in a little bit, but this is what I thought the Titans and Chiefs game would look like. Um, I thought coming into this game, like that game, that Derrick Henry would run all over the Chiefs. I thought their defense was a lot weaker than they showed. Um, the way they came out Sunday was a lot tougher than I thought they were going to be, and I thought that's basically what, like, I thought like um. I kind of have them switched, I guess. Like, I didn't see the 49ers running all over the Packers like that. I picked them to win. Like, they're definitely a more complete roster all around, but I thought that the strength of I thought their defense, I gave them a little more credit than they definitely deserved, and I thought Aaron Rodgers would be able to keep them a little bit more in the game.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think this 49ers rushing attack is pretty nasty going into the Super Bowl. I'm still not totally sold on Kansas City's defense. It is shut down the Titans offense, but I think the 49ers are a lot more versatile. Like,
Hmm.
Derrick Henry is a monster, but outside of him, like Dion Lewis hasn't done anything
Oh
since
yeah.
leaving New England. I don't know if they even played any other running backs on Sunday, whereas the Niners have really three running backs that probably could either start or at least get serious playing time anywhere else in the league right now, especially the way um, Mostert looked crazy explosive yesterday and all of that. So yeah, I think that Green Bay definitely got really exposed. That defense got a lot of hype coming into it, and they didn't look up to the task at all.
Hmm.
And I think it is great that they have something to lean on, to not force Jimmy G to do a whole lot. Like I believe in him as a quarterback, but I think obviously it's a lot better if he doesn't have to go and win the game for you. If they can just run the ball. That should be a big advantage versus Kansas City.
Yeah. And to clarify, we are going to have a whole episode in the future dedicated before the Super Bowl starts to just talking about the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah,
we don't got to make our picks or anything right now, but
that's
yeah,
true.
it's we're going to come out with that episode probably next week. So stay tuned for that. But let's get over to the other game, Titans at the Chiefs, and obviously the Chiefs would win this. So when I watched this game, I really thought that the Titans made a lot of key errors in this game, and it really started at the end of the first half when the Titans were only rushing three guys against Mahomes, and you can't you can't do that. You have to get pressure on Mahomes because he's decently mobile, so he can scramble out and pick up yards like he did, but also their receivers and stuff, they're gonna get open. They have so many weapons down there. Mahomes is an accurate passer. He can throw the deep ball. He's too good to let him have enough time to work with. So the fact that they were only rushing three guys was, I thought, that was where Tennessee was going to lose the game because you have to get pressure on him. And the few times that they did, they caused some disruption. There was that one play where they sent that blitzer in, and Mahomes had to throw it right away, and he wasn't on the same page with his running back. And it was the running back's fault completely on that one. But still, you got to be disruptive. You got to make the Chiefs. You can't just let them get into their rhythm where they're picking you apart on offense. And as far as the Titans offensively, I feel like they got away from Derrick Henry way too early in this. They should have kept with what their strategy, what got them there, which was running the football. And Tannehill had a terrible game. I mean, the Chiefs aren't a great defense, so the fact that he didn't really do much at all other than the very beginning of the game and the very end of the game, in that middle part, he was just not very good. And the Chiefs, once they started getting that momentum, once they got the lead in Arrowhead, I mean, I know Eric thought that this game was still in reach towards the end, but I once the Chiefs got the lead, I was feeling pretty comfortable because once their offense gets clicking, like we saw in that Houston game, 7 straight touchdown drives. It wasn't to that extent in this game, but they had, I think, 3 or 4 straight touchdown drives. So this Kansas City offense is scary, and they can do it with anybody. That Texans game, it was a lot of Travis Kelce. This game it was a lot of Tyreek Hill, and they can Mahomes will throw it to anybody. So that's the problem with defending this Chiefs offense. And then when you look at Tennessee's lack of success on offense, it's because I think Derrick Henry had so much. He'd been worked so much in these last month of the season coming into the playoffs and then the first two playoff games. It's hard to keep that up. I know he's a monster and everything. He's amazing, but it's really hard to keep that going for a longer stretch when everybody knows you're the number one offensive threat. Everybody was ready for you. So that's why you never really saw him get explosive. And also the way the Chiefs were able to combat that, you gotta make contact with him behind the line of scrimmage. Don't let him dictate the runs. You gotta gang tackle him. It takes two, but you gotta gang tackle him. You gotta force him. You gotta get him behind the line of scrimmage. Don't let him get moving, because once he gets to speed, he's really hard to take down. So that was the things that I noticed. Tennessee, I think they should have stuck with the run more though. Even when they were in second and longs, they should have given it back to Henry. I think because their offense was really not clicking. KC, even their defense still scares me though because they dropped a couple of interceptions, which they really should have had. So, but all in all, the Chiefs definitely deserve to win this game. I know there was a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's rigged for the Chiefs" because that clip of the guy throwing the flag right once the play started. But I think that was just an illegal formation that he saw and called the flag for, and then they saw the holding, and then they called the holding, and for some reason they didn't announce a legal formation, but it definitely was a legal formation on that play. But this was another game that was kind of underwhelming because the Chiefs held the lead for the majority of the second half, and it really, I mean, for the entirety of the second half, and Tennessee never really made it close. So that's what I saw in this game. But Connor, what did you see when you were watching this?
I mean, it just shows like how it's pretty impossible to game plan for this Chiefs offense. I mean, who are you going to cover? I mean, you put a bunch of guys on Travis Kelce. Well, now Tyreek Hill's open. You start putting guys on Tyreek Hill. Now Sammy Watkins is open. As much as I hate to praise Sammy Watkins, but I mean, he's pretty good. And then like Damian Williams can run the ball too. And I mean, it's something that a lot of people don't really think about with Mahomes. They think about, he's got this, huge arm. He can make almost any throw. But people don't think about him as being a mobile quarterback most of the time. And, the amount of times that I saw, it was really the inability of the Chiefs to get off the field because the Titans to get off the field because, they'd stop the Chiefs on like, first and second down. Like, first down, the Chiefs would do like a run play and they'd stop that. And then, the next play, Travis Kelce would get like, he'd drop a ball or something like that.
Yeah.
It would be third down. And then they'd start, they would just drop everybody back in coverage, like you mentioned, only rush three. And then, after like a little bit, when everybody's still covered, Mahomes would take off and run and get the first down. So it's like they kept giving up these like, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10s. It's like you got to get off the field. You can't keep your defense on the field against this Chiefs offense. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, and it's something that the 49ers are definitely going to have to be careful of because, obviously the 49ers don't have the pass rushing issue that the Titans have. The 49ers have a lot of guys that can get after the passer. So, but, Mahomes is obviously a much more mobile guy than Ryan Tannehill is. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But, I mean, the thing for the Titans, I do agree with you, Zach, that they got away from Derrick Henry too early. But still, though, I mean, even though they got away from him, he still carried the ball like 20-plus times in that game and only got around 70 yards. So, when your workhorse is, carrying the ball 20 times and he's not over 100 yards, that's never a good sign. And I think the Titans just needed to diversify their playbook a little more. It's like the Chiefs knew exactly what they were doing. It was either a run play to Derrick Henry or play action. And, you start running that play action enough and you're not having as much success in the running game, you're not going to fool anybody. It was working when Derrick Henry was running for 180 yards in the game because, that running the ball was a real threat. But when he's only running for around 60 yards, you're not going to fool people as easily with that play action pass. So, maybe they needed to. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, he's not. It seems like the Titans tried to baby him too much, in my opinion. Like, he's not a first year quarterback. He's not a Tyrod Taylor type quarterback where he's not supposed to be a game manager. When he was in Miami, he did some pretty good things for Miami, not just managing the game, because what kinds of weapons did they have for him? Tannehill had to make the plays and make the throws. So I think trying to run this like super conservative playbook was just not in their favor. And I think another thing they probably should have done, I saw this once in the game. I don't know if it happened at all after I turned the game off, but they brought Marcus Mariota in for a play one time. I don't, maybe try that. Marcus Mariota's he can run the ball. Maybe try some option plays or something like that to, give Derrick Henry more ability to, get a running start that's not getting tackled in the backfield. So just a very vanilla base offense that the Titans were running. And, the Chiefs figured it out. The Ravens couldn't figure it out. The Patriots couldn't figure it out. But when you have, 2 or 3 games to recap and look at, it becomes a lot easier to stop a, vanilla offense, even though it's been working in the past. So, but yeah, the Chiefs defense definitely still has holes. I mean, they're definitely not up to the level that San Francisco is up to. So, but their offense is just this might be stretching a little bit, but in my mind, their offense is just miles beyond San Francisco's offense. I mean, because at least with San Francisco, from what's been evident, if Kansas City can stop the run, then I think San Francisco's in trouble. Whereas if San Francisco starts stopping Patrick Mahomes, well, then they have Damian Williams. If they start stopping Travis Kelce, well, they have Tyreek Hill. They've got a lot more pieces that you have to contain. It's not just one person. Whereas like with the Titans, again, it was one person. It was, you stop Derrick Henry, you beat the Titans.
Yeah.
So that was my take on the game. And yeah, I mean, I was kind of defending Eric, anything can happen there at the end of the game. So I wasn't ready to 100% say the Chiefs were going to win. But I mean, when you're down by that much and you're playing in Arrowhead, it's very, very, very unlikely, especially for the way, you were saying, the Titans style of play. If it was the Chiefs were down by that much in that scenario, then yeah, I would definitely say they could do it because, just how explosive their offense is. But with the Titans, it's just, there's still a chance, but is there really much of a chance? Very little, very small.
So Nate, what did you see watching this?
Kind of. I'm really on the same page as Connor here. What I saw mostly was, I give the Titans a lot of credit for the way they turned things around this year. I think they finally figured out how to use Derrick Henry after the past few seasons. They figure out just sit back and feed him and let him do his thing and get stronger as the game goes on, and don't have your quarterback have to try and do too much. And I think Kansas City kind of just exposed sort of the flaw in that it's just a little bit too one-dimensional. I think they had their plan coming in and it worked great against the Patriots and the Ravens past 2 weeks. But when Kansas City came out and really put all their effort into shutting down Derrick Henry, they didn't really have a backup to go to because it was all either give him the ball on a handoff and then go to play action pass and get him on a big play down the field. And there were a few looks that the Titans missed on. They had I think it was their backup tight end or something. It was a bigger, kind of slower, white guy, but he got way open down the field. And I don't know if you guys remember the play, but it could have been a 60-yard touchdown if it was a real wide receiver. But he was a couple steps out in front of him. He couldn't make the play, but they had their shots to definitely put up the points needed. But I think the play calling, I'll definitely agree with Connor here. The play calling was definitely too conservative, I think. And not in that situation, I still don't think you should totally go away from Henry, especially the way he's been playing the past few weeks. I think they still should have tried to give him the ball. And what I saw a lack of was the screen passes to Henry. They ran some screens to Dion Lewis. I saw them kind of bring him in the game once they got down, which I think was a mistake because he hasn't done anything in a whole year. They should have brought out. what I would have wanted to see more of was keep Henry in the game and get him involved in the screen game because he's been deadly on the screen passes too as well in the past. He had a like 90-yarder or something like week 1 or whatever. I don't remember the exact situation, but get him the ball in space, and once he gets moving, he's a big guy. He's gonna break. He's not going down in the first hit, so like get him some space, start rumbling and all that. I think for them it was just hard to like when their plan A got shut down, they didn't have a plan B to go to. That's mostly what I saw. And kind of again to echo Connor, like Mahomes was playing, I think, on a different level. Like yesterday, like he made some great throws, and the mobility definitely is an underrated aspect of his. Like he doesn't run a whole lot because he doesn't have to. He can fling the ball to Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins or Kelsey or whoever, but when he needs to run or get some space in the pocket, he's probably as good as anybody besides Jackson or Russell Wilson, just in terms of those guys have better like top end speed, like as far as gaining yards and stuff. But I think he's as mobile as pretty much anybody else out there, which is another advantage. I know we'll do the whole Super Bowl preview, but against the 49ers next week, or 2 weeks from now, that'll be a big advantage trying to deal with that pass rush. So yeah, kind of not going to talk too long because you guys kind of, made most of the good points. But yeah, I'm kind of on the same page there.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, I was just looking up how many times Derrick Henry got the ball in the fourth quarter. He only had 4 rush attempts in the fourth quarter. So they completely got away. I know that they were behind and all, but to only have 4 rush attempts for an entire quarter, I mean, he gets better as the game goes on. So that's where I think they messed up. But we'll move on from that now. And by the way, I'm not complaining either. Let that be very clear.
Yeah.
I was happy with
I
with
saw that.
Yeah. So I just want to look back quickly here for Connor and myself. We were on the Collier and Claire Sports Show last week, making our predictions about these 2 games. So, I mean, I was obviously 2-0. Connor went 1-1 with the game predictions, but the one that really stuck out to me, and I tweeted this when it happened, was, hold on, I gotta delete that. But the thing that stood out to me that I think I got wrong was Aaron Rodgers having to be great. I remember I said, no, he doesn't have to be great as long as, like, if San Francisco beats themselves, he doesn't have to be great. But boy, was I wrong about that, because I think he would have had to been great times 2 for them to win that game.
Oh yeah.
So that
The rest of the team was horrible in that
yeah,
game.
the rest of the team was horrible. Um, and then from the Titans and Chiefs, I think I got it right about Henry, because I might not have said it on the air, but I did tweet about it before the games started. I said Derrick Henry's going to have under 100 yards rushing. But then my other prediction for the San Francisco game was that George Kittle would lead all players in the game in yards. That was obviously way wrong. But but the Derrick Henry one was right. So that was those were my kind of like bold and overall predictions from the games. So I was a mix, like I usually am. But Connor, what do you think you said from that episode that came true or didn't come true?
Well, I mean, obviously I predicted the Packers to win, which, I mean, when I look back on that, I was thinking in my head, like, why did I pick the Packers to win that game? Like, like I think I was just kind of like semi-believing that maybe they had a chance with Aaron Rodgers, but like,
Yeah.
then I was, as the game was going on, I'm like, yeah, that was just, I should not have picked them, but oh well,
Mm-hmm.
I can't go back on it now. But
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was wrong about Derrick Henry, actually, because I thought that Derrick Henry was going to be, I thought that it was going to be Tannehill that was going to bring down the Titans, because I thought, like, okay, the Chiefs have, like, out of the 3 defenses that Derrick Henry has faced, this is by far the worst, when you're looking at the Patriots, Ravens, and Chiefs. And then, I don't know, I mean, I think that was really it. It was just those 2 things, because I mean, I knew Jimmy G wasn't going to throw the ball at all. I knew right from the start that the way that the 49ers were going to win the game, if they won, was it was going to be running the ball and defense. And sure enough, that was exactly how it happened. 250 plus yards of running the ball and, and their defense. So I think I got that part right, but obviously I got the Packers way wrong. And then even though I said that Derrick Henry was going to have a big game, I still picked the Chiefs to win the game, so I got that right. I was still rolling with the Chiefs, so I was like, their offense is just too good, and obviously playing in Arrowhead is one of the most difficult locations in the league to play.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun being on the show with them. I know Natasha's upset about the Packers not winning. She thought she was going to be hosting a Super Bowl party, but
Oh yeah,
you
I
know,
remember that.
yes, that's probably not going to happen now. Sorry, Natasha, but hopefully
Uh-huh.
you'll still have fun. Possibly rooting for the Chiefs to beat the 49ers in the
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
I'd be guessing she's going to be rooting for the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, whenever your team gets eliminated, unless like
Yeah,
it's your rival in the Super
yeah,
Bowl, you never want to root for the team that eliminated you. So
exactly,
I would say
exactly.
unless it was like I mean, and for an NFC team, right? It's like just root for the AFC team.
Hmm. Yeah, so I agreed, man. That was a fun episode to be a part of. I definitely thought being on it, it was fast paced, man. Like, and I talked to you after the episode, like that episode was moving, like it was like
Oh
boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. Like there was four of us,
yeah,
and we talked about so much stuff, and it was only like 45 minutes or 50 minutes. Like, man,
yeah.
like
It's like
that was the biggest difference from our show. I think we're more, uh, we have time, like we take our time talking about things more so than on that show. But
I mean,
you agree?
yeah. I mean, it's just like we're more. Maybe we just are more. We ramble on longer. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's
they
a good
were.
assumption.
I mean, it was really good how they did that. Because I know we've had issues in the past when we've had like all of us on the show. It's like, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna budget the time? But they
Hmm.
did a really amazing job budgeting the time really well. I was really
Yeah,
surprised at how that worked. So I mean,
yeah, that,
kudos to them for four people in the episode, and yet it was only 45 minutes long. Because there have been episodes that you and Eric and I have been in, like just the three of us, that have been
yeah,
like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So,
yeah.
um,
We,
but yeah, no,
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to hopefully maybe going back on their show again, and hopefully having Stacy and hopefully Natasha this time on our show in the future.
yeah, yeah, and hopefully, Nate, we will get you to be a part of one of these guest episodes eventually. I know you haven't been in one yet, but you'll be
Yeah,
in one eventually, man. So stay tuned. It's a lot of fun
for
being with
sure.
some new people that you've never talked to before, and just talking about sports. It's a different experience, but
Yeah.
and then of course that we had our cameras on too and everything, so it was quite a
Oh
bit
yeah,
different.
you got to see
That
our pretty mugs. I was
Yeah.
I've kind of forgotten about that. I would have waited to shave my beard until after that episode had happened, but I forgot about it. I was like, oh crap, I would have like wanted to keep my beard. I look better with my beard than I do shaved.
okay. All right, so we'll get now. Like I said, we're going to talk about each team individually. So I came up with just a couple of points for the team. So what's next for the Titans? In my mind, honestly, they're going to be back to 9-7. Maybe they'll be a wild card next year. Maybe they won't, depending on how the rest of the AFC teams do. I mean, they're the kind of team that can win in the playoffs. So I know 2 years ago, back when my Jaguars were in the playoffs, they were also in the playoffs and they won a game. They won a wild card game as well against Kansas City. So they're definitely a playoff threat if they get there. But as far as the regular season goes, I mean, people forget this, but this season they got shut out by the Broncos, and I think that was the Joe Flacco Broncos too. So they're nine and
Not
seven.
good.
They're 9-7 until they prove otherwise, in my opinion. But the big thing is going to be Tannehill and Derrick Henry, their contracts, and this is what I think I'm happy for as a Jags fan because Derrick Henry, obviously, they're going to have to give him like Todd Gurley money to keep him. So I always love it when teams give a running back a big contract because running backs shelf lives are so small, and also they're gonna have to make a decision on Tannehill, and I think for the course of the season, I think he's earned a contract, and I think with quarterbacks they usually get big contracts, so I think it's very possible he gets a Nick Foles type of contract from the Titans,
He's gonna
and I'm
start being Sam Bradford and like
yeah
making 1 year contracts.
yeah so I I don't know if he's worth it either. I still am not a Tannehill fan. I know the stats were okay, but like you said, it's all because of the play action with the threat of Derrick Henry. Imagine when you take him away, you get what happened in this game against a not great defense either. Kansas City is not known for having a great defense, so that's what I think's in store for the Titans. But they could be back in the playoffs. They might not, but I don't see this. I know Dan Peeves retired today, but they've been switching through coordinators on offense and defense a lot in the past couple of years. So I'm not sure that's going to be a big thing for them. But that's what I think is going to be next for them. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, I got it wrong at the start of the season when I said they were going to be last place in the AFC South. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because, I mean, I know this didn't happen this year, but I said it at the start of the season that inevitably Tannehill / Mariota is going to, like, I don't think Mariota is going to be back. I think they're going to let him go.
Mm-hmm.
But inevitably, Tannehill is probably going to get hurt. I mean, we've seen it in the past, like how many times he's been injured. And it's just like, I don't see that changing. I mean, especially when he's getting older like this. So, I mean, and the regular season, I mean, and I think for them, the key is going to be how the rest of the AFC South progresses, because obviously I see Houston having, a lot more success in the future. I don't think they're going to fall off the map anytime soon, as long as they've got all those young players on the team. But, what if the Jaguars start coming along? What if the Colts start refining their magic? Then what's going to happen? Because, I mean, the Jaguars are a young team that are trying to come in through the ranks. And I think, like you guys mentioned before, like getting rid of Tom Coughlin was the right move. So hopefully, with him gone, who knows? Maybe they could return to that form that they had in 2017, and that's going to really hurt the Titans. So I do think there's definitely room for them to make the playoffs in the future, but I don't see any real long-term success for them until they can find a new quarterback that's going to really, be there for a long time, because I don't see Tannehill being around any longer than maybe 1 or 2 more seasons before, and I'm assuming at least, if not this season, next season, they're probably going to try and draft a successor to Ryan Tannehill. So, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, like I can see them making the playoffs again, but I don't see them any real long-term success for them in the future.
Okay, Nate, what do you think?
I'm with Connor here. I think they can be good next year, especially they come out with the same like focus they did these playoffs and really like kind of feed Henry and keep that offense like they had this past season. But at the same time, I think Kansas City might have kind of presented some of a blueprint against that. So I'm hesitant to say they're going to be a real contender next year. I think there's definitely a blueprint that exists now for stopping this offense, since it is so one-dimensional. If teams can figure out how to do that, I think Titans will be in some trouble. I think they definitely have the talent to compete and possibly make the playoffs, depending on how good the rest of the AFC South is next year. Obviously, the Jaguars take a step forward, then they're probably the third best team in the South. So that might be an uphill battle. But I'm definitely with Connor here. I don't see like long-term success either, just with the way that, I don't think Tannehill, I mean, he's definitely got the talent, but I still haven't seen enough from him to say he's a true like franchise quarterback. And I think Derrick Henry is also a monster, but if you focus your entire offense around him and make him your workhorse, that could definitely take a pounding. And he hasn't really been injured too much in his career so far, but if he does get a couple injuries, I think that's going to be tough for this team as well. I don't know where they would go if he did, especially if he had a serious injury next season. I don't know what they do offensively, because they don't have anyone else at running back. I don't think Deion Lewis is going to come back next year. And we've seen their passing game is very up and down. So I think, kind of to summarize, I think Titans can be good. They can make the playoffs next year, possibly. I definitely can see that, but I can also see them being pretty bad, conversely, and I don't see, really long-term contention in their future.
Okay, interesting there. So now the next question, we're going to talk about the Chiefs, and I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. I've been hearing a lot this week, or not this week, but today after the AFC Championship, that he's on a fast track to becoming a GOAT or at least like an all-time great. So what do you, I mean, he's very young, obviously. This is only his second season of playing since he sat out his rookie season. But in my opinion, I'm gonna buy into the hype here, and I'm gonna say yes, he is on the fast track to being a GOAT or the greatest, an all-time great because he's got a brilliant offensive coach in Andy Reid, and I think that's really critical because a lot of times you see really good quarterbacks. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks, like the Rivers and I think Roethlisberger, Stafford, even to an extent. Um, Prescott, I think, can be in that range. But the thing that I think is keeping those quarterbacks from becoming like goats, is having a great offensive mind as a head coach or offensive coordinator. And obviously, it's better to be a head coach because you're going to be with that team and not go be a head coach somewhere else. So the fact that Andy Reid is still with the Chiefs, I think, as long as he's there, I expect Mahomes to still be great. And another thing about Mahomes too is I think he has the ability to keep this type of production longer in his career. So unlike someone like Lamar Jackson, who you expect to regress rushing the football as he ages, I think Mahomes can stay consistent with his throw power and with his passing yards, since he's not known for being a running quarterback. So I think with those two things in mind, I'm gonna have to buy into the hype here, guys, and say he's fast tracked to becoming a GOAT. What do you guys think, Connor?
I mean, I think that he could be it. I mean, I didn't really believe that he was going to keep up the success this year. Like, I thought he'd still have success, but, I didn't think it would be nearly to the level that he's had so far. I mean, really, the only thing that kept him out of the MVP conversation were those, like, 3 or 4 games that he missed due to injury. Other than that, I mean, he's probably, like, the next in line behind Lamar Jackson for the MVP because Russell Wilson really fell off. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I believe he can keep it up. I don't think he's going to stop. I think now the question for me is that I do agree that having a key offensive mind like that is really essential for like developing a young player's career and becoming a GOAT quarterback. My only concern for him is that how often is that going to lead to, I want to say, like playoff and Super Bowl success? Because we've seen it time and time again where it's not the offense that carries the team to the Super Bowl, but it's the defense. And it's having that defensive-minded head coach, a guy like Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll or Mike Tomlin or somebody like that, that is what puts you over the top. Because you can have a great offense all you want. If you're giving up a lot of points, then then I think that's it. Whereas, and I'm one of those people. I don't think championships are everything, but obviously, when you're going to start trying to compare him to to Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, he's going to have to get some Super Bowls under his belt. And who knows? Maybe he can get his first one this year.
Yeah,
but we don't know.
That brings up a really good point. So I'll ask you this question: do you see his career going more like Tom Brady with the rings and everything, or do you see it more going like Aaron Rodgers with the MVPs and the stats and everything? Like, are you leaning towards the Aaron Rodgers track for him?
Well, I'll take it one step further than Aaron Rodgers. I see him taking the Peyton Manning step, the Peyton Manning or Drew Brees path, where he's going to be putting up. I feel like he's going to be putting up big numbers his whole career. I just don't think he's not going to have the championships that Tom Brady has. I mean, obviously, we always like to laugh about the joke in the NFL is like Andy Reid as a head coach. Like, he always has all this regular season success. He, has this always has like one of the top offenses in the league, but then can never win the big one. So, I mean, do I think he'll at least get 1 or 2 Super Bowls? Sure, but I don't know if he's going to be the next GOAT in terms of championships. But if he can put up the numbers like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, which I think he can, then yeah, I'll buy into the hype. I think Patrick Mahomes can do it. I believe in him. I didn't believe in him last year, but he really proved me wrong this year. So I will jump on the hype train with Zach.
Okay. Nate, what do you think? Do you see him having, I mean, I assume you don't think he's going to fall off the map. So you think he's going to go
Yeah.
like Brady and get like the 5, maybe 6 or rings or something like that? Or do you see him going like, Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees and Manning with limited Super Bowl success, but like really great statistical. He'll be like at the leaderboards of a lot of stat categories when he retires.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in a tough. I think somewhere in the middle, I guess. So I guess I would say Peyton Manning. 'Cause he's
Yeah.
probably the best combination of stats and Super Bowls out of that group. I don't think anybody will ever hit the Tom Brady like 6 rings mark
Hmm.
for a while, just because what he's done is like so unique in terms of like he's taken like less money to help
Oh, that's true.
them put together a good team and
Yeah,
he's had a
very smart.
yeah, I mean that's a big that's been a big help and they've always obviously had like a genius coach in terms of roster construction, so that definitely helps. When not I mean he definitely had a huge hand in winning them 6 Super Bowls. Like I definitely think it's a good like argument for Brady's success. I'm not gonna deny that, but I don't know that I see Pat Mahomes um being able to be a beneficiary of that because I don't know what his priorities are in terms of signing a contract. Like if he's gonna want to sign like the richest extension ever in a couple years, he could
Well,
easily
he
command
might
like
be after this season to answer that because he
he.
might get the biggest deal this offseason with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh
Resigning.
really? I thought it was still another year before he hit that.
Well,
Well,
it'll
But
be another year, but they want to get the ball rolling.
oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like do it early, I guess. But yeah, I could see him getting like 40 million a year easy. Like if they're considering giving Dak that, what are they gonna give
I
this guy?
don't know
That's
if they're
that's
considering
he's
giving
gonna
Dak
get
that
crazy money.
much.
Yeah.
So that's where the Super Bowl question comes in play for me because if he does sign an extension like that, like who are they gonna be able to put around them? Because they've got a top right now they got a top 2 tight end in Kelsey. They've got an elite wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. They've got Sammy Watkins has been playing good, but he's gonna be due for I believe some more money if he keeps playing up this way. So it's like I think for me that's the biggest. I think he'll definitely
Okay.
put the stats. Like I think talent wise, I think he's a better version of Aaron Rodgers, just in terms of like he's got the insane arm strength to make throws that I don't know that anybody else really can make in the game right now. And he does have that mobility that I think at least for the prime of his career he's gonna be mobile and have a wicked arm. He can put up like 40 plus touchdowns a year. So I think the stats regardless will be there. And Super Bowls, you know, I think he'll win this one. Not to get in my total picks
Okay.
yet, but he's got a shot in two
Yeah, he
weeks
definitely has
to
a
already
shot.
have one. To have an MVP and a Super Bowl potentially at his age, like that's. I think he's definitely headed for GOAT territory if he keeps it up.
Okay. So now we'll get on to the two NFC teams here, and we'll start with Green Bay. Are the Green Bay Packers frauds? I've seen this going around a lot on Twitter. All the fans are saying no, no, they're not frauds. But my take is that they are frauds because when you look at their schedule, so many one-score games. We know from the NFL history patterns that these one-score games are not conducive to replicating themselves year to year. So it's not like, oh, you're just a team that wins these close games. Usually that changes every other year. So that's one reason I think they're frauds. Another, their schedule. They, when you look at their 13-3 record, they beat the Chiefs without Mahomes. The refs cost the Lions in that game, and that the final game, the Lions really cost themselves. Um, their other losses, they lost badly to the 49ers and 49ers and Chargers, and they never had to play the Saints either. So the teams that they only beat, they beat up on the Vikings and Seahawks, which I'll give them credit for those 3 wins. But other than that, still I think a worthy playoff team, but by no means were they deserving. I think of the number 2 seed. Like if this was a college football playoff committee making these rankings, they wouldn't have gotten the 2 seed, in my opinion. And we all really discounted them in the playoffs. And I think it's rightfully so because this team just this roster just isn't as good as some other rosters. I think even the Cowboys roster is just as good as this team, and they didn't make the playoffs. So that I do think Green Bay were frauds this whole season. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were. I mean, it's the reason why I picked them to, you know, I picked them to lose in their first round of the playoffs. And when they were playing, well, I picked it at the beginning when I had them, going against the Seahawks, and I picked the Seahawks, or not the Seahawks, the Saints to beat them. But even when we made our picks for like the Seahawks versus the Packers, I picked the Seahawks to beat them because I didn't think they were going to do it. And honestly, they did win that game under some kind of questionable circumstances.
It was,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I think it all started like right from the beginning of the season. The hype train started, when they beat the Bears, because everybody thought the Bears were going to be this juggernaut of a team. They had this great defense and blah, 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 blah. Well, then they went and beat the Bears, and everybody thought, oh, well, this Packers team, like they got the defense. And I mean, I know the offense didn't do very well, but they have Aaron Rodgers, so they'll be okay. And I mean, it's definitely probably like the worst 13-3 I've ever seen in the history of the league. Like when I looked back on their record, I was like, wow, they went 13-3, like, but they played so bad. Like, how did they actually get to that? So, yeah, I mean, and I still think that, I do think they should have made the playoffs for sure. I mean, I'm not going to discount them there, but I definitely think, maybe the Vikings were probably deserving more of that division crown than the Packers were, especially considering when you look at the way they played against the 49ers, like neither team played great, but at least the Vikings didn't allow Raheem Mostert to run for 220 yards. Like,
yeah.
So, and yeah, like I said, I agree. I think they were frauds. I don't think they deserve to be in that game against the 49ers. I think it definitely should have belonged to someone like Seattle or New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page here. What you said about being the worst 13-3 team, that's kind of what I thought the whole time watching this game. Like, how are these guys really 13-3 in the NFL? And I think when you do look back at their schedule, like with Zach, they really didn't play the toughest schedule out there, and there's some games they definitely kind of scraped by that they definitely could have easily lost. I didn't give them too much credit coming into the postseason. I had them losing first round as well.
Yeah.
I had the Saints beating them in the first round, which obviously didn't have that matchup. Maybe they would have lost that game. But yeah, outside of really Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers, there wasn't too many positives from this team yesterday. So yeah, I think the fraud label is definitely deserved in the situation.
Okay. I know Green Bay Twitter is gonna blow us up if they hear this, but I mean that's like this is just what we think,
that's
guys.
okay. The state of Indiana already hates Nate. So
oh yeah.
What about Wisconsin too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Add the Midwest to your hate list there. That's pretty funny. But we'll move on now to the final discussion. So we're going to talk about the 49ers and Richard Sherman. And this wasn't really a in the game sort of thing, but after the game, him and Darrelle Revis exchanged a bunch of tweets. I think Revis started it by saying like, "Oh, you're gonna actually have to cover next week, and you weren't that great and everything, like because you don't travel and take the team's best receiver, you're not all that." And then Sherman piped back like, "Yeah, well, you even been to a Super Bowl and all this stuff," and like he was just basically saying how much better he was, and basically it's just a whole bunch of beef going on between these two guys. But I'm curious to hear what sides you guys are going to take on this stance. And personally, I think I'm on Sherman's side just because, yeah, he doesn't travel to the best receiver, but he does what his scheme is asked of him to stay on that zone scheme, to stay on the side of the field. And I've heard DBs talk like they both have their challenges, they both have their levels of difficulty, and I think man to man is definitely more difficult, but still he's elite at what he does, and teams rarely ever throw to his side of the field. And I always think personally, if I was like running a team, I would want my best corner to be matched up against the second best receiver and then double the team's best receiver, assuming that their best receiver is like a elite receiver, someone like a Mike Evans or DeAndre Hopkins or Michael Thomas, one of those kind of guys. I think it's beneficial to double them and then put your number one corner on their second option, but which is kind of what ends up happening with Sherman. But I just think Revis was a little bit out of line here by bringing this up. I mean, the 49ers, dismantled them, the Packers. So there's nothing. I don't think Sherman really. I just don't see why he needed to say this. That's why I'm going to take Sherman's side on this. I think it was kind of unnecessary. These two have had beef their whole career, so I'm not surprised by it. But curious to see what side you guys take on it if you were to take a side with this.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I've never really respected Richard Sherman as much as maybe some other people because of the reason why he doesn't travel. I respect those man-to-man coverage guys like Darrelle Revis or Patrick Peterson, those guys that can follow the receiver and still have great success, But, I still will take Richard Sherman's side on this because obviously, even though Darrelle Revis has called him, a fraud and everything and that he's not as good as he seems, he still has pretty well proved himself as a shutdown corner. People don't even throw to his side of the field, even if that's their number 2 receiver. They still just don't even throw over there. So, and again, he was the anchor for that Seahawks defense, in the early 2010s, 2013, 2014, the Legion of Boom. That was his team. Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor are great too, but it definitely wouldn't have been the same without Richard Sherman. So, maybe if he hadn't, because I think one of the things that a lot of people don't think about with Sherman, they think he's, this great corner. He didn't really have very inspiring years the past 2 years when he started with the 49ers. It was really this year he kind of came back and reestablished himself as one of the best corners in the league. So I think maybe if we were talking around then, I would, I still really probably wouldn't take Darrelle Revis' side. I would just see his point a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely am with Zach, though. I think that was out of line, and I would take Richard Sherman's side on this because I think the success speaks for itself, even though, like I said, I'm with Revis as I don't respect him as much. But yeah, it's, I can't argue against his stats, and it was just completely unnecessary by Darrelle Revis.
I think I'm definitely with both of you guys on this one. I think it was just totally uncalled for just to be sitting there and put out a tweet like that. Kind of tells I think that's kind of like a sign of insecurity on Reeves' part. You've been retired for how many years? You got to come out and put this guy down. As he's helping take his team to the Super Bowl. I think that was definitely unnecessary. I think I was never a fan of Sherman's just because, the way he was always so loud and trash talking and all that stuff, managed with the Seahawks. But in recent years, I've kind of become more of I definitely just respect his game a lot more. He does play zone, which is what, Revis was trying to call him out on. He usually doesn't cover receiver all across the field, but in my opinion, I don't know that you need to do that necessarily to be a great corner. He, maybe he only plays one side of the field, but I think for most of his career, he hasn't been able to lock that side down. Quarterbacks don't go to his side of the field, regardless of what receiver ends up over there. So, there is something to be said for being able to, shadow the elite receivers like what Revis was able to do for, the prime of his career. But I think when you see the guys that do that, they get top corner in the league billing for a little bit, but I don't know that there's really anybody who's been able to do that for an entire career. Ramsey was kind of that for a little bit. He locked down Hopkins a few times and got a whole lot of credit for it, but then he went to the Rams and he hasn't been the same. Even last, year and a half, he wasn't the same. Trying to do that, and we've had other guys kind of that same kind of mold over the past few years that, they're the best corner in the league, and then the next, year after that, it's a new guy, and
yeah,
I don't know. I think Sherman, to have the 9-year career that he has, and he had a down year last year, I will definitely agree with that. But I think he's a super smart player, the kind of film he watches. I think the way he goes out and shuts down half the field, like there's definitely something to be said for that, regardless of if the best receiver is always on that side. So I'm gonna give Sherman his credit. I think he's um, obviously definitely like Hall of Fame worthy. I wouldn't say he's best corner ever. I still think there's something to be said for Revis in his prime, and obviously going back to Deion Sanders, they definitely have an argument as well. But yeah, I think definitely uncalled for. I think Sherman definitely um, was right in this. I'll definitely take his side in this argument. So
Okay.
definitely kind of a weird situation all around though.
Yeah. It reminds me sometimes too. You see in the NBA when there's like former players taking shots at other players they're not in the game anymore. So it's like there's no real consequence for Revis because it's not like the 49ers aren't going to play like the Jets and they're not going to use that
Right.
as motivation. So it's like you can just kind of bully people and say whatever you want. But we're getting to an hour here in this episode, guys. So we'll wrap this up. But yeah, we got this. This is going to be the only episode put out for the week on Thursday. We're going to do an episode with Aaron Swarm and something like a podcast. So stay tuned for that. We'll be providing links and information for that episode as well. But as far as Clutchery Sports, this will be it for this week. We'll be back next week. And like I said, that Super Bowl episode will be coming up. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be all about the Super Bowl. It'll be a lot of fun. Um, so yeah, thanks guys for listening and peace out.
Bye.
See ya.
For Eric, peace.